All of our snow this week. A lot of us have spent time on those sledding hills, but many of us don't put on a helmet for ourselves or our children racing down those hills. And some local doctors are big advocates for this becoming a new practice. Joining me now is Dr. Matthew Severson from Gillette Children's Specialty Healthcare. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on a very important topic. I will start this with full disclosure. I have been sledding a lot. I have two boys, as many people know. I've never put a helmet on myself, and I've never put a helmet on the kids while sledding. And why is that? We all put helmets. I'm like a policewoman when it comes to on the bicycle, or if we go, skiing or snowboarding, something like that. But it's not common practice for us to put on helmets while sledding.
Yeah, thanks for having us on here and having me on here to talk about this. You're exactly right. I mean, you think back to, years and years ago, we used to not wear helmets when we're biking. We used to not wear helmets when we're playing hockey. We used to not wear seatbelts in the car. So our understanding of really safe practices and how to protect our kids, protect our futures really changes over time. And one of the things we're really starting to see is the importance of wearing a helmet when our kids are out there on those sledding hills. We've got some that we'll go through here, but I think we're really coming to understand that that's an important piece of protecting your child's head. What more important, piece is there to protect on their body than their head, right?
Yeah, and we can fix a lot of bones. You guys as doctors can fix a lot of bones, but sometimes the head, it is a whole different story. And the numbers are, pretty alarming as far as the number of accidents that you see into your ER in ERs across the country.
Yeah, absolutely. At Gillette Children's, we see a lot of kids that come oftentimes through the emergency department at Regions Hospital, and then they come over to our side of the hospital at Gillette Children's, and we care for them after these injuries. We also see them in our clinics after they might have hit their head but maybe didn't require going to the hospital actually for treatment. Across the country we see that there's over 20,000 kids a year that go to the emergency department due to head injuries and other injuries just from sledding alone. That doesn't even include things like snowboarding, things like downhill skiing, where it's also really important to have that helmet on.
All right, so in trying to make this more common practice, and there's some photos there of a patient who has spent a lot of time at Gillette's for a head injury due to sledding. You brought some examples here of what sort of helmets we should be putting on our kids and ourselves while sledding and what kinds we should not. Let's start with the kind that, frankly, most of us have in our garage, is the good old bike helmet.
Yeah, absolutely. So we want kids to be wearing helmets when they're riding their bikes, of course. This is a good example of a bike helmet, but we wouldn't recommend this one for being out on the snow, being sledding, doing that skiing, those snowboarding activities. For one, it's not going to keep your kid's head warm, and we want that helmet to be nice and snug. You actually don't want to put a hat on underneath a snow helmet because it can affect the fit, and it can actually, if that helmet's moving around, if their head does hit the ground or hit a tree or hit a rock, that negatively impacts actually safety and quality of that. So don't use bike helmets.
In addition to the warmth, you also said that the ridges and some of these holes, those can become kind of hazardous.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. If you've got a little branch or a twig or a rock or a piece of ice that you just can't see, and your kid's head hits that as they're going down, might get caught, might twist their head. That could cause further injury to their head or neck. So we want to avoid that.
Okay. And the kind you do recommend are more along this line.
Yeah, this is another example of one of those more summer sport helmets. Smoother, so it gets at that, but it's not going to be warm enough for them.
And again, the holes.
And again,
Okay.
And these over here, so we've got three good examples of some nice smooth helmets here. I'm going to pick one up just so we can look at it a little bit more.
Let's point it toward the camera in this direction so we can see. There we go.
So here, we've got some nice ear warmth that's coming down. It's going to provide that warmth for your kid's head like we want. It's 1 degree outside today on my drive-in, and so you want to make sure they're staying warm. So that will do that for them. And then it's smoother. Smoother over here, smoother on our mannequin there as well. And Leah, if you give a little tug on that helmet too, it's nice and snug.
Pick it all up.
It's exactly what you want. You don't want it moving around. You want it to be, that chin strap to be nice and snug. Again, you don't want to put a hat on underneath. And really, one of the other things is these helmets are designed for like one good impact, and then they should be replaced. So we don't recommend going to buy, used helmets. And if your child's had that impact, then go out and get another one for them.
Very good advice. And you yourself actually had a close call growing up here on sledding hills in Minnesota, right?
Yeah, growing up in Minnesota, it's part of our culture. It's part of what we love to do, and we want kids to be outside. We want them to be active, want them to be having fun and enjoying the snow. And I myself growing up down in Farmington, there's some good sledding hills just down the road at St. Olaf College, and so we'd go sledding down there, and one Christmas I was pretty bruised up from a fall into the snow. It's just unpredictable. You know, as you're sledding, that ice changes, the snow changes, and what was a good run one time might not be good the next, and that's kind of what happened to me, is that trajectory just changed, and I got lucky that I didn't really, it wasn't a bad injury, but it was close, you know, and it could have ended up differently. So we just want to protect the other kids from having anything bad happen to them from sledding.
Well, very good advice and good to consider, and you know, I'm sure with a lot of sledding in people's future this weekend, definitely something to talk about for many Minnesota families. All right, Dr. Matthew Severson, thank you so much from Gillette. So we appreciate your time, and we'll repost this segment online so people who want to go back and hear some of these recommendations about the different helmets can look for that. All right.